Spoiler alert, spoiler alert. The following video will contain spoilers from the Legends of Tomorrow episode titled Progeny. So if you don't want anything spoiled or ruined for you, stop watching now. Hey guys, Dave here. I am so sorry about being late with this video. Due to a weird work schedule, exhausting times of dealing with people, doing Leesburg Comic Con and several other things, I'm so sorry I haven't been able to get to the video here. Hopefully after this week's sale dies down, I should have a little bit of a better schedule and I can actually do this more within the time the video actually gets shared. So not only am I going to be doing this video today, but I'm also going to be doing a very special Nerd Rage video involving the death that happened on last week's episode of Arrow, titled 1159. So stay tuned for that. Alright, so the Legends now travel to the future, about 20 or 30 years before Vandal Savage is supposed to take over the world. The idea is to deal with a young kid named Progeny. Now this guy has been a bad guy in the Justice Society of America. Usually has to do with time travel, stuff like that. So he's dangerous, he's clever, and he's not afraid to manipulate time to get what he wants. But the idea is, get him when he's young before he unleashes a virus in 5 years, which deals with a lot of the people on the outskirts of a very bad thing. Apparently, the whole thing about corporations running countries now becomes the fact in that world. So part of the team goes to try to deal with Progeny and try to kidnap him to get him off the playing board, as it were. Rip's talking about possibly killing this kid, and that has a lot of the members divided. Other members are actually going to go to this company that had these that would look like automaton versions of the Atom armor. And that has an interesting surprise for Ray, because he ends up meeting who he believes to be his great-great-great-great-great-granddaughter. And that leads to some interesting things. We also have plenty of flashbacks involving Kendra and her time back in the 1900s with Carter. And it's interesting to see the little flashes there, here and there, and it really shows the character that she was. This is the same generation, essentially, that ties into their son that they met up with in the pilot, who unfortunately had a bad ending. But they got to realize they either have to pack up and leave and get the heck out of there before Vandal strikes again. So it's kind of really sad. Anyway, what happens next? Well, we get some interesting things here, because as some of the crew decides to get a hold of this kid, which they decided, we need to try to redeem him. We need to try to do this. They're also having parallels with what's going on with Mick as Heatwave, or Kronos, who he's dead set on not wanting to reason with Rashomon. He wants revenge on the crew. So a lot of them are talking about redemption and trying to get through to Mick. Considering some of the members were actually brainwashed sometimes, they feel like it might be a good thing. Meanwhile, Captain Cole's wrestling with his feelings on the whole thing. He's ready to wash his hands of it. But, despite the exterior, he actually does care. It takes a bit of nudging to get through him. Eventually, the kid gets kidnapped. They got him doped up. We find out that apparently Gideon can monitor dreams. That's a pretty sneaky bit of crap there. A lot of drama's going on here. Eventually, Rip takes the kid off, and he's ready to off him, but then this kid is just bold as crap, I'm telling you. I mean, he knows a killer when he sees one, and even though Rip's trying to explain, if I kill you, then I can save my family. But the dude calls him on it. I mean, he's just like, no, flat out, you're not a killer. And Rip realizes that he isn't. So eventually they start to make a preparation for a prisoner swap, as it were, to try to give up Progeny for a reward. There's a lot of crap going on in there. Eventually we find out that Ray is not the great-great-great-great-grandfather of this kid. It's actually his brother, who took the Atom armor, and ended up joining with the company and essentially just made up a quick buck. So he feels a little bit more relieved about that, but ends up to stop Vandal Savage and the gang from attacking the Wave Rider and taking them out. It needs her help, and it looks like they eventually get it. Big climactic fight. Savage at one point has Kendra by the throat with a dagger. They have a prisoner exchange, and they eventually do release. We know that things are going to be getting bad eventually. Meanwhile, eventually as the crew gets the heck out of there, Snart ends up having a little conversation with Rory, and by conversation I mean beating the crap out of each other with the stipulation, if one dies, if Snart dies, Mick can steal the jump ship and get out of there. If Mick dies, then Colt can have a clean conscience. They beat the crap out of each other, and just as it looks like Mick is going to land a killing blow, he doesn't. So then he kind of snaps him out of it a little bit. Apparently violence is truly a language he understands, and he ends up telling the legends that now and that he's failed, the hunters are coming after them. These are a group of guys that are going to travel through time and space to come after them. So now they're heading to the wild, wild west. And next week's episode is going to actually, this week I should say, is going to deal with Wild West. We're going to have Jonah Hex, the hunters. We're going to have mucking around with time those times. So it's going to be really interesting, I think. And given that there's no episode of Flash this week, not even reruns, and no new episode of Arrow for 3 weeks, we're going to get our DC fix this way. So it's going to be kind of cool. So all in all, it was a good episode. It definitely had a lot of climactic build-up here, but I think it's starting to get its steam back a little bit. We'll have to see how they handled the Wild West episode and Jonah Hex and everything before they really start picking things up again. But it still remains to be the DC and CW's bad boy of taking risks and trying new stuff. So that's kind of cool. So what do you guys think? Please like, comment, subscribe, share, pass this bad boy around, and please stick around for my next video. Nerd Rage, the death in and of Arrow. Take care. Peace. Yum yum.